Professor since 2002. She is starting out on her 4th journey through the Competent Communicator Manual. This is her icebreaker speech where we may learn a little more about Peggy. Tonight, she'll tell us about solving problems. So please help me welcome Peggy Gyps. Peggy Gyps solving problems. Peggy Gyps while solving problems. Peggy Gyps.
Good evening. My name is Peggy Gyps, and I like to solve problems. Tonight I'll tell you a little bit about myself, so you'll know maybe a little bit more than you did before, and also some problems that I've dealt with, just a little bit. I had a typical childhood. My father was an Air Force career officer, and my mother was a nurse. There were 5 of us children. I was born in Sacramento, and then I started my elementary education in Kansas. I finished my elementary education in Western Massachusetts, and I went to junior high in Wyoming, and high school in Great Falls, Montana. I did not travel as much as Richard did, though. At Montana, I got a degree from Montana State University in chemical engineering. And I discovered after graduation that miraculously, somehow, magically, I had developed a logical technique for solving problems. And I didn't think that I had been that way before. I ended up working at Dow Chemical, where I stayed for 31 years, all in California. 5 years were down in Torrance, and the rest of them were in Pittsburgh here. During that time, I worked on projects, construction projects, design and construction projects of process engineer equipment in operating plants. At times, they were single engineer projects. I would run it
Visiting hours for adult services are over in 10 minutes. Thank you for your cooperation.
All the way through construction. And other times, I was on a large team of process engineers where we just did the calculations and developed the equipment and did not involve ourselves with the construction. So it was one of these small projects where I was the single engineer. We had to put in a big pipe, and there was a stairway in the way. It was really a landing. And the pipe was about as big as that cross piece there. And it had to fit in a crowded section of the plant. I could not figure out how to shoehorn this thing in underneath the stairway. So I took out the supervisor of our designers, and I said, how can we get a pipe from there through that stairway? And he says, that's the designer's problem. So I brought the designer out. How can we get a pipe through there underneath the stairway? He said, that's the contractor's problem. And the contractor figured it out. He took the stairway out, put the pipe in, put the stairway back in. It ended up being a simple solution, but I didn't feel comfortable with not knowing to start with how to do this. And so I resolved to have at least an idea of how to do this before I presented it to the designers. So I'll tell you now about a project I had in my house. Now it took me 3 or 4 months to figure this out, but we have high ceilings. Needed a 10-foot ladder. And now when you're done with the ladder, where do you put it? Well, the best place to put a ladder is in the garage. We have 8-foot ceilings in the garage. You can't put a ladder vertically in a 10-foot ladder in an 8-foot ceiling. The walls were full of stuff. So the only place to put it was on the ceiling. So after some thinking, I finally came up with a solution. I came up with 2 T-shaped bars that I could put the top of the ladder on, and then I had some hooks on the other end, some eye hooks on the other end, and I decided, well, we'll pull the ladder up with a pulley so one person could do it. Ladder's too heavy really to do with one person, but that was my idea. And then I was trying to figure out how to secure the ropes that I used to pull it, and I finally came up with, just put a piece of wire around it. It took me months. My newest challenge is figuring out how to make a queen-size bedspread look nice on a king-size bed. We've already been through version 1, and I am now working on version 2. I do have other projects that I let develop for a while, and I have another woodworking one that I'll have to tell you about later. I think I figured out how I'm going to put this thing together, but the proof is in the pudding, correct? My name is Peggy Gyps, and I like to solve problems.